top of the Western Conference?
Yeah, because I didn't think their roster was worth a damn, outside of LeBron and Anthony Davis. But Kyle Kuzma came back earlier than expected, and that's exactly what the doctor ordered. Rondo is giving them an actual point guard. I thought Quinn Cooks looked decent. I mean, Danny Green has been worth every penny so far. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not as wrong as I was when I was saying the Sixers weren't going to have a good bench. But, yeah, I'm surprised. But we knew all along that even though the Lakers got B and C free agents, because they have two of the top 5 players, top 10 players in the world, that they're going to be good. But how will they sustain that if one of the two go down? We talk about load management. LeBron is not one of those guys who's been too high on it. But if you see LeBron sit or you see AD sit, who's done a bit of everything and has looked every bit the MVP candidate that he was in New Orleans in a smaller market. But if one of those two have to miss extended time, then this team's in trouble. So right now, with the West being as competitive as it is, they need to scratch and claw and get every win that they possibly can while these two guys are healthy in early November.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really been surprising, Jason, is how good they've been defensively. And that LeBron James has really turned it on. I mean, we talked about the Nets. The Nets are the fourth worst defensive team by opponents' points per game. It's a rather rudimentary metric, but nonetheless. Um, on the flip side of this, the Lakers are number 3 in the league, Jason. And if you had told me that, I would have been shocked because LeBron has just not been very good. They have really a roster full of guys who haven't been that good. And I think when you look at it, I mean, LeBron has been much better defensively. Dwight Howard has been a real player for them. And between Howard and Davis, those two alone are blocking over 5 shots a game. And it makes it much harder for teams to get into the paint. They have a guy like JaVale McGee on the bench, so they really have a lot of rim protection. And meanwhile, Avery Bradley and LeBron James have played really well on the perimeter defensively, and so has Avery Bradley. So you've really had a really nice resurgence for them on the defensive end, and I think that's what's really gotten there. Because if you look at it, Jason, in spite of everything we just talked about, this is still a two-person team. I mean, the next scorer after those two guys is Danny Green, and he's not exactly a lights out offensive player. He's shot well this year, but ultimately, if he's your third option offensively, I mean, he wasn't even the third option for Toronto last year offensively. So, I think that really goes to show that this is still a 2-man team, and if they can keep up this defense, they'll be there. But that's where this is going to really come down to, Jason. I mean, at the end of the day, to me, the Lakers' ceiling will be about how well they play defensively. And I have to tell you, I am a little dubious that that's going to continue.
I agree. I mean, this team's got its work cut out for them. But like I said, Ben, you have to give them the credit while it's due. There are some teams that are off to some very good starts early, and the Lakers happen to be one of them. But their Staples Center counterparts are matching them step for step, and it's definitely going to be an interesting race. We're in this for the long haul, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's look at some of the other things going on in the West. We talked about the Lakers and their game against the Mavericks. You had a great little nugget on phenom Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I apologize for having the Mavericks so far off my radar that I just forget who I am sometimes. But listen to this, ladies and gents. So players under 21 have produced 14 25-plus point triple-doubles in NBA history. This is according to Basketball Reference. And your boy Luka has half of those, including one in each of his last couple of games. Joining Hall of Famer Jason Kidd is the only player in Mavericks history to dish out at least 15 assists in back-to-back games. I mean, can he average a triple-double, Ben? He's got a very good running mate now in Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, they need some wing help. I think that's a given. But other than that, I mean, they have been so good together. So my question, again, Ben, is do you think Doncic can average a triple-double?
I'm a little dubious. I don't know if he's going to get to the rebounds, Jason. I mean, I'm not trying to throw any shade at Russell Westbrook. I'm really, really not. But his teammates basically just let him get rebounds. And they've done this a little bit so far with Doncic. But I mean, there are guys on this team who can rebound the ball. And I'm just not sure that's going to continue. So I think that's going to be the tough one. He's at 9.5 assists, 10.3 rebounds. Obviously, points aren't going to be a problem for him. I think he can get there with the assists. I think the rebounds will probably be what get him because, I mean, this is really a two-man team, Jason. They're still trying to really find the other pieces on this team. I really like what I've seen from DeLon Wright, but otherwise, I think there's going to be a lot of Doncic. So I think the points and the assists will come. I think it'll be the rebounds that probably trip him up.
Yeah, but it's still an interesting storyline to follow because no one thought Russell Westbrook could rebound as well as he has. And guess what? He's been incredible at it. I think without the presence of a true wing defender, I think that if Porzingis is, running wide on outlets in transition, that the rebounds will be there for Doncic to pull down. But the Mavericks have been a surprise. The Suns have been a surprise. I mean, that just makes the West that much stronger.
Yeah.
Because there aren't too many teams outside of the Pelicans and Warriors truly struggling. So we might have to redo our Western Conference playoff predictions. I don't want to, jump on or off any bandwagons too early, but you got to give these teams credit. We're 2 weeks in now. Identities are starting to take shape. And these teams who have been written off by many, including us, have been quite the healthy surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm still not sure I'm buying the Timberwolves or the Suns as playoff teams, but the Suns are showing something. I mean, you were a year early, Jason. You were on the Suns bandwagon, and you know what? We need to talk about this team because Phoenix has been something else. Devin Booker has shown this season, Jason, that he can be the hub for an offense. You should have seen the lengths that they were going to and on Philadelphia's roster to try and get the ball just out of his hands. They were doing everything in their power to not let him get the ball. And I said it at the beginning of the season, Jason, and I'll say it again. Ricky Rubio is the perfect point guard for Devin Booker. He is great at getting him in his spots. He's good defensively. He takes off some of the pressure of defending the best perimeter guard player of other teams. It lets Booker just go out there and cook. And cooking he is, Jason. He has been absolutely lights out. He's shooting 30% from three. That's not going to continue, but it just goes to show that he has been phenomenal. He's shooting 50, 50, 90 right now, Jason. He's not going to keep that up, but teams are respecting him and they are warping their defensive schemes to account for him. And I think that that's a big storyline. Now, my concern is that I don't know this is going to continue without DeAndre Ayton. They are just, you could see last night when they played the Sixers that there's just not that many guys on this team that can really step up. Guys like Kelly Oubre, guys like Rubio are just not going to be second options. And when we're asking Aaron Baines to be that guy, it's a little too much. So I don't know, Jason. I mean, I'm a little bit hesitant at this point because I don't know if they have that second guy on this roster. What do you think?
I agree with you. I mean, Aiton's a big loss for them. Baines is steady, but is he good enough to shoulder the load of being a starting center in the NBA? No, I think he's better suited off the bench. But Suns fans would have to hope that the backcourt combination of Rubio and Booker can keep this team afloat until Ayton can come back, which will probably be around right after the holidays, January, which is still plenty of time. But the Suns, what they're doing right now is they're keeping themselves afloat in the West, and hopefully they'll be treading just enough water that they're able to keep surprising as the season goes on. But I thought that was a great win over the Sixers. It was tight-knit on Monday night, and they ended Philly's undefeated reign. There are now no more undefeated teams in the NBA this season, and it's been fun to watch. At the very least, Ben, they're a league pass team. And it's funny, me being afraid during predictions because I was so high on Phoenix last year as my surprise team that I said, you know what, I'm not going to do that again, and I should have stuck to my guns because they do look good, and I appreciate you giving me credit because I was a year off. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting to watch this team without Ayton. I mean, one of the things I want to really give them credit for, and I mean, we really, really have to talk about their coaching as well, but they just have smart basketball players now who play defense. And that's just not something that they had. I mean, I'm not trying to be down on the Suns, but I mean, since Monty Williams took over this team, they've just had a different identity defensively. Dario Saric, Aaron Baines, Ricky Rubio. These are guys who really defend, and Oubre has competed on that end, and they have guys like Mikal Bridges on the bench. I just, that's been one of the things that's surprising about this team. They'll play defense. They're sticking with their man. They're playing tough defense. Javon Carter and Tyler Johnson, they just go out there and compete. And that keeps them in these games. And it means that when Devin Booker goes off, like he did last night against the Sixers, they have a chance to win the game. I mean, a few years ago, the difference would be that, yeah, okay, they score 114 points against the Sixers, but the Sixers score 130 and they lose by 16 points, Jason. This year, they've been a little bit better on that end, and with the exception of, I think, really the Clippers game, they've been able to kind of hold teams a little bit under their averages and really be able to play good enough defense to let their team win. So I think that's going to be one of the things for them that they need to continue doing. If they can stay a good defensive team who keeps other teams in the 90s or the low hundreds, they'll be in the position to win some of these games, Jason.
You convinced me because I'm going to make a bit of a bold prediction here. Not that the Suns are going to make the playoffs, but with Steph Curry expected to miss 3 months, and I don't see how he would fit in a very special game in February, I think that there may have to be a spot reserved on the Western Conference All-Star team for Devin Booker.
I completely agree with you.
It is an absolute gauntlet to even be a snub for All-Star in the West because of all the locks you have. But this could be the year that there's no Steph, no Clay, and no Draymond on the All-Star team, and that's going to open up some spots for these younger players who deserve it. You know, could Doncic make it? Could Booker make it? Porzingis? I mean, there are some young, hungry players in the West that are going to say, hey, what about us? And I think, you know, even over the last couple of years, like, how did D'Angelo Russell become an all-star before Devin Booker? I mean, has Booker ever been an all-star? I'm checking this right now.
No, he hasn't.
So
I think I like that prediction.
Due.
Yeah,
he's due. He's definitely due.
I like it very much. And, you know, there's going to be some good matchups. I talked about that Sixers game was probably the best of the night last night. But I think it makes a nice segue here, Jason, because we have some great matchups coming up this week. And before we wrap up today's show, we have to talk about them. You were kind enough to let me lead off last week. So this week, Jason, I'll let you take the juicy first one.
Is it really juicy anymore, though? I mean, I sit there and I pour over the week that is to come in the NBA, and I'm like, wow, Wednesday night, prime time, Bucks Clippers, yeah. And then I'm getting ready to do this podcast with you, Ben, and I see the Kawhi's out due to load management and rest. So, I mean, it just shows that, you know, guys like LeBron who have played hurt and have put that extra mileage on their bodies, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan. I know we're in the analytics era and rest and mental health and all that is so important, and I get that. But if you're Kawhi Leonard, you want to be put up in that conversation of one of the greatest players to ever do it. You can't be load managed like this. You know, if it works for him, it works for him. And if he does win the Clippers a championship this year, 3 titles with 3 different teams, that's unprecedented territory. But when you have a potential finals preview on a Wednesday night in November, you play the damn game. Why are you resting on load management on November 6th, Ben? So I have to begrudgingly remove this from the first marquee matchup. And because the powers that be confirmed that he's playing Thursday, I have to go with Clippers at Portland as our first marquee matchup of the week with an asterisk because I really like that Bucks-Clippers matchup before we found out Kawhi was sitting.
And it makes you wonder if the league's going to have to consider getting rid of some of these back-to-backs because more and more of these guys are doing this. So, at any rate,
it's becoming the Kawhi Leonard rule, pretty much. I mean, what other player rests this much?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I'm not gonna say too much because I don't know what the best thing to do here is. I think the league has to look at the way that they make the schedule, or they need to, you know, they need to talk to these teams about how to handle this because it does start to impact the way we watch the games. But at any rate, the second game, which is going to be a doozy and is a one that I think is going to tell us a lot about one team more so than the other. The Sixers travel to Denver to play the Nuggets, and this is a big game for the Nuggets. The Nuggets have not looked like themselves, Jason. I mean, as much as, you know, they're not exactly terrible, not like they're, you know, the Bulls or something where they're 2-5, but the Nuggets at 4-2 are a shaky 4-2. And their point differential shows that because they're just above even on their point differential. They've not looked like themselves. And Jason, this will be a really good test, I think, for them to see what they can do against a team in the Sixers that have really bullied other teams. I think this is a chance for the Nuggets to show that they're a team to be reckoned with in the West.